Welcome to another episode of Tried by Fire, where we fried by tire.
Every episode, we have someone new.
I know. Eventually, this whole room's going to be filled with people. I mean, we're not going to particularly talk about fire today. Job 23:10, it says, "But he knoweth the way that I take. When he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold." So just as gold or silver is tried, refined by the flames, we too, our faith is refined by fire. And that is where we get the title. We are continuing in our series of the conclusion on the life of Solomon. In case you've missed the other lessons, you can go back and there's to the channel. You can just go to the channel and click on the links and just, watch those before you come here. Or you could just start up right here and be confused. It's up to you. I don't know if it would be really that confusing, to be honest. I think with everything that we've been talking about, I think it'd be pretty easy to just kind of jump in. I'm going to try my best to keep this under 10 minutes. So we're going to start in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, or rather continue. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, we're going to read from verse 1 to verse 10, and then we're going to skip to verse 20 through 22, which is the end of the chapter. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rend and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. What profit hath he that worketh in that wherein he laboureth? I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it." Verse 20. "All go into one place. All are of the dust, and all turn to dust again. Who knoweth the spirit of man that goeth upward, and the spirit of the beast that goeth downward to the earth? Wherefore I perceive that there is nothing better than that a man should rejoice in his own works, for that is his portion. For who shall bring him to see what shall be after him?" Today's episode is sponsored by... I'm just kidding. Today's episode is titled, "What is Your Portion?" We see Solomon here kind of go down a list, in case you were not paying attention when I was reading, which you should have been. That was the whole point of the reading part. He goes down a whole list of times, seasons. Not seasoning, like as in what you use on food, but seasons. And not seasons in the sense of winter, summer, spring, and the other one. But seasons, like times of your life, things that you go through. He starts off by, first of all, labeling a time to be born. He says there is going to be a time in everybody's life when you come into this world and everything's brand new and you get to see everything for the first time. Solomon thinks about the simplicity of life and how everything has a start and everything has a finish. In James 4:14 it says, "Whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow, for what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time, and then vanisheth away." It's a puff of smoke. It just comes, and then it goes. It's quick. Those little things in between the birth and the death of your life are seriously little compared to what is eternity. You should be consistently thinking about your life. We might think or consider or try and be in good position in regards to our life. We might be fine financially or physically or emotionally, but the most needful thing is where we are spiritually. In John 6:63 it says, "It is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life." There's nothing more important than making sure that you are in a good position spiritually. If you're not in a good position spiritually, all of those other things that you are in a good position in are useless. You're not going to get very far in this life if you don't have a good spiritual standing. You could literally have everything in this life from beginning to end taken care of. But if you don't have the one thing that matters, in Mark 8:36 Jesus says, "For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Sin only lasts for a short time." In Hebrews 11:25 it says, "Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season." But we also have to remember that we are all sinners. For Romans 3:23 says, "For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God." Some have said, well, I know I'm a sinner, I know I've broken the commandments, and by definition I'm going to hell. I've heard it a million times. Everybody comes to me and says, oh, you're on your way to hell. Every preacher, just like everybody else that comes to me. Let's try this on for size. James 4:17 says, therefore to him that knoweth to do good, and doeth it not, to him it is sin. James 2:10 says, for whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. You're guilty of breaking the law. It doesn't matter which law you break, you're still guilty of breaking the law. But the beautiful thing for Christians is they get to understand and realize that that fine has already been paid. Solomon here, he's looking at every single season of life. And I love the way he starts. He starts at the time of birth. Nobody in their right mind, anyway, holds their newborn child and says, someday you're gonna die. You notice that Solomon starts by mentioning that everything has a season. There's a season for everything. Many of us, I know myself especially, have suffered from depression. During those times, the first thing that most people think about are these seasons. The things that we live for. Why were we born? Why do we exist? Why are we continuing on? What's the point of it all? You have people that love you and people that you love, and you should think about those things. True love is not about what this world says it is. The world says that love is equality, it's blind, it's forever, it's a feeling. But godly love is not in these contexts. 1 John 4:19, it says, we love him because he first loved us. He doesn't expect us to hang on the cross with him. This is why he instituted baptism. In Romans 6:4 it says, therefore we are buried with him by baptism into death, that like as Christ was raised up from the dead by the glory of the Father, even so we also should walk in newness of life. He doesn't expect us to stay close to him through every season. He knows our thoughts and he knows our free will. He knows what we're going to do next. This is why he instituted prayer. In James 4:8 it says, draw nigh to God and he'll draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. He doesn't expect us to automatically follow him just because we suddenly feel like it. This is why he instituted the law. In Galatians 3:24 it says, wherefore the law was our schoolmaster to bring us unto Christ, that we might be justified by faith. Our flesh automatically resists the things of God right out of the womb. In Psalms 51:5 it says, behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. But God has given us such a beautiful picture of creation, a beautiful picture of the afterlife, and a beautiful reason to live. We tend to sometimes take it for granted. We see all these things day in and day out, and we just expect the sun to come up the next day and not really worried about it. But really, I mean, what happens if the sun doesn't come up tomorrow? When I was in Alaska, when I was a wee lad, I went on a cruise. Me and my cousin were going around that ship for hours. And on the first day, we saw a lot of people, obviously, walking around the ship, and we're in the middle of the water, so they can't go anywhere. But suddenly, as the day progressed, there were fewer and fewer people. They just started kind of disappearing. But all the people that were working at the restaurant and stuff, they were still up and about and moving around, even though there was nobody else there. We got to know a waiter really well, actually. He would sit with us and show us magic tricks and stuff and talk to us and teach us life lessons that I don't even know really what he was even talking about. People were just kind of disappearing, and we thought, this is strange, where's everybody at? We felt like the only two people really exploring the ship, and the sun was still up, so it didn't really make any sense. Finally, my parents came in and they said, what are you guys doing? And we felt so tired, but we didn't know why. Like, what was wrong with us? And they said, well, why are you up so early? I didn't get up early. I don't know what you're talking about. And they said, it's 5 o'clock. Why are you still up? And it's 5 a.m. The sun had never gone down. But I didn't realize how much I missed the nighttime until there was no nighttime. But God gives us seasons in order for us to experience certain things. He's given us a season of rejoicing for sure. We're allowed to rejoice in a lot of seasons, and we're allowed to take in a lot of things. But we also have to remember that God also gives us a time of sadness, a season specifically designed by Him for us to feel emotionally drained. These seasons come and they go, but the real reason is not the seasons. The real reason is to please and glorify God with everything that we do. We should have a desire to do things for the glory of God, and even more so to do them until we get to see God. Think about how great it would be to be with God. Paul had said it himself in Philippians 1:23. He says, for I am in a strait betwixt two. He says, I'm kind of in a rock in a hard place. I'm having a hard time figuring out what I want more. He says, having a desire to depart, meaning to leave this world and to be with Christ, which is far better. Nevertheless, to abide in the flesh is more needful for you. And having this confidence, I know that I shall abide and continue with you all for your furtherance and joy of faith. I love how he ends that there. It's a joy in faith. If you don't have joy in your faith, you don't have faith. That's not real. You may suffer from depression, or you may be going through a hard time. All we can do during this time is pray that there's somebody else that will edify you. And it will make it that much easier if people are on board with each other, helping and edifying each other to have joy in the ministry. That will be able to have joy in the ministry. And those people that see it, that are on the outside, that suffer maybe from depression, will say, hey, maybe there's something there. Maybe they have something that I don't. Chester Bennington of Linkin Park, he took his life way too soon. Kurt Cobain of Nirvana took his life way too soon. Robin Williams took his life way too soon. And I can go down a whole list of people. But the point of the matter is, if they had community and they saw Christians having joy in service to the Lord, even knowing their background of being depressed and having problems, and just saw the edification of one brother Christian and another brother Christian lifting each other up for the glory of God, I think they would have been a lot more applicable to go to that church or be a part of that group, and less inclined to have committed suicide or ended their life. They would have had value in their life. They would have understood that their life had value by Jesus Christ. In Psalms 119:10 it says, with my whole heart have I sought thee. Oh, let me not wander from thy commandments. Your whole life should just be of seeking God. When you get to a place where you feel alone, and you feel hurt, and you feel confused, and you have questions, dedicate yourself to seeking God. Times of depression, seasons of depression come from God. In verse 10 it says, I have seen the travail which God hath given to the sons of men to be exercised in it. We are to use those seasons to grow closer to Him. It's okay to be inept with your emotions. It's okay to feel, for it's the only way that we're going to be able to get closer to God and lean on Him more and to search Him out. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, you can leave them down in the comments below, and I will read them, and I will let my wife get back to you. Once again, I don't know how to end this,